14. This is the wrong thing. I'm looking at
That was. You guys will never know what I just saw on the screen.
Okay, we'll start again. That was just measurements for clothes. That's what that was.
Bit lost. Go on anyway, go on.
Hello everybody, welcome to part 2 of our YouTube countdown. This is albums number 9 to 6, I think. Is that right? Or 10 to 6?
I think we're doing 9 to 5. 9 to 5.
9 to 5.
Albums, and then our last video is going to be the bottom or the top 4.
Top 4, okay. If you like what you hear or see, please like and subscribe to the channel and put some comments in and tell us where we got things wrong. Okay, so this is number 9 and it is October. I ranked it as 8 and Shane ranked it as 11. October, I have a soft spot for October. I think this is a fair enough place for it, but at the same time, it's an album I like. It's one of, like, back in the day, it was one of the U2 albums that I actually owned and listened to a lot. But it has, I suppose, a few flaws. Okay, so just the background. This is their second album. This is back when they're in the rock phase, so they're really Steve Lillywhite producing before Eno came on board with the whole sort of atmospheric, full into the atmospheric sound. This phase of their career, they were going through, like, they were part of this religious group. I think it was called Shalom, and 3 of them were in the group. So it was Adam was not. The other 3 were. So The Edge, U2, Edge, Bono, and Larry, and a lot of religious themes coming through in all the different tracks. Gloria has some like religious elements to it. With a Shout, Jerusalem, all these sort of religious themes that come in. Rejoice, and apparently when they were writing the album, Bono lost a suitcase and lost the lyrics, and apparently he was writing them on the spot sometimes, and they're not really quite there. I like it. There's some highlights for me, like Gloria. I think is a great rocker, a cool sort of riff, a really good live song. I threw a brick through a window. It's a bit of a tongue twister. I like it. I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like it. I think it's a good rocky, upbeat song. One great one is Tomorrow, which is, we mentioned he wrote songs about his mother. This is one about his mother, and what he remembers of her, the day of her funeral, and it's like talking about the cars coming to pick them up, and like he was only 14 years old at the time, so I suppose a very vivid memory in his mind. A unique arrangement. It has uilleann pipes, which is like Irish bagpipes played with a bellows on your elbow. Very unusual for U2 who many will criticize as being very similar sounds. This is quite a different sound. I think it's a very it's very evocative, emotional type of song. October, the title track, is just, apparently it was written by The Edge in his parents' house on the piano. Like, it's just simple chords and a simple lyric. It's a nice song, but it's nothing special. Is That All has this sort of riff that it's a grand song. It's like a grand meaning it's only okay. But the riff they used it live then when they used to play the Electric Co live, I think it works much better in that context as a song, and then sort of took that riff. I think it was something they worked on for a long time, and they took it and turned it into an actual full song.
Which song is this?
This is That All, the final song. I don't think much of it, but so like I think there's a few good songs here, but as a whole, as an album, it's not quite as good as some of the others.
Yeah, look, I like as I said, well, I haven't said it really yet, but like, to me, Boy and October are very similar albums. We'll talk about Boy, I'm sure, when we get there, but they're similar kind of in quality. So I chose Boy ahead of October, but it's, to me, there's not really. I don't like. There's no standout track. First of all, for me, I know you said Tomorrow. Like, there's uilleann pipes in it, but other than that, it's still just U2. Like, it's U2 doing their thing with uilleann pipes. Having said that, I agree that there's a nice kind of the sentiments is pretty straight, you know, like there's pleasant or not pleasant, but heartwarming or heartfelt sentiments from Bono, where he says like, "Won't you be back tomorrow? Won't you be back tomorrow? You know, who broke the window? Who broke down the door? Who tore the curtain? And who was it for? Who heals the wounds? Who heals the scars? I just want you to come back tomorrow." It's just that little line, "Won't you come back tomorrow?" Even though it's simple, sometimes simple lines like that can resonate. You know, especially, you know, when you're talking about something like the death of a loved one, or, you know, something like that.
Yeah.
Gloria to me is just kind of like, I know a lot of YouTube, that's a fan favorite for a lot of YouTube fans, and I was expecting something much better, but it's just essentially just a guitar riff that is reasonably catchy, and then it's just YouTube doing their thing, you know. There's just no diversity in sound. It's sonically pretty much the same. I know it's produced by Steve Lillywhite. It's sonically pretty much the same as Boy, and there's just not enough diversity. Yes, there's in pipes and Tomorrow. Yes, there's piano. I think, is it in Scarlet or is it in?
There's a bit more piano in general. Like, I think I fall down.
Touches up piano here and there. Like,
yeah, so they do bring in a bit more piano than Same Boy, but it's not. Yeah, no, it's the same as Boy. Like, it's like Boy Part 2 really, and it doesn't have. Boy has a few more standout moments in it. I don't think it's a favourite of U2 themselves. It's like, it's a real second album syndrome. You know, every band has the life up to that point to write the first album, and then the second one has to be done. Like, this was done about a year later. So, and it shows, like, it doesn't have, I suppose, the depth of quality there. Some would say the Boy doesn't have that quality. A lot of people would like Boy.
Well, Boy is a fan favourite of a lot of YouTube fans.
Yeah, no, it is.
The, 80s.
But I suppose one thing is, like, the best of the 80s, no songs here made it onto it, except for October as a secret song at the end, which...
But only one song, I think, made it from Boy. Is that like I Will Follow?
Yeah, you're probably right, Shay. I Will Follow, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. Is there anything else to say on this?
Well, I just kind of think that like I say, there's plenty of energy. Like, I'm trying to focus on some positives. You know, like, they are. You can tell. I still think that even from early on, The Edge is the star of the show in some ways, and I know he goes on to develop his sound, which I'm sure we'll get to later on. But he sort of is a star of the show. Like, is that he has great timing for when to come in with a certain type of guitar line and with his riffs, and just like there's just not really much for me to grab onto with this album. Can't really say much about it.
Yeah, no, that's pretty much it. Yeah, so yeah, I think it's a fair enough. Like, one thing as well about these lower ranked songs as well, for me, like, there's no perfect U2. Well, there's a few. Okay, maybe the top 2 or 3 are pretty solid, but apart from that, there's always holes in all the albums. This one has a good few holes, and then the high points are not as high as the others. So that's, I suppose, a fair reason why we have it there. Okay, I think that's enough on October. We move on to the number 8, which is All That You Can't Leave Behind. That for me was ranked number 9.
You've probably spent less time in October than any other album, but I just don't have, like, as you say, you don't seem to have much to say. You like it. Like, it's all. I think a lot what can be said about October, I'm going to be saying about Boy as well. So I'll leave it till then. Like,
yeah, well, like, one thing I will say about it, like, the songs. When I only sort of got to like the songs when I heard the live version. So there's an early recording of them during that tour, or maybe the war tour, when they play a Through a Brick Through a Window. I think it's on. I think you get it on Spotify even now on the like, they have all the B-sides and all the Spotify, like, the extended versions of albums now on Spotify. But I think it's good. I think it's much better than the live version. The drums are sort of, they're whatever way it's done, like, they come through really strong, like, they resonate, and there's a load of sort of echo and delay on them. But it really hits the point through. The riff is grand, but again, as you're saying, like, the edge comes in. Like, sometimes what you don't play creates space for when you do play, and then it sort of has more of an effect. Like I noticed one really good example I find is the bass line in Airbag by Radiohead. Like he doesn't play it all the time, but when he does play it, comes in and he goes, oh yeah, that's really good.
Oh, yeah,
so like
definitely.
there's a bit of that when the guitar here in I Threw a Brick Through a Window, and I like that. Like it comes in and it cuts through everything, which has a good effect. And the Gloria riff I like. So those two songs and Tomorrow. But yeah, I think we've said all we have to say about it. Okay. Next one then is All That You Can't Leave Behind. That's number 8. It's lower than me. It's low enough for me on number 9, but Shane has it. You've at number 5.
Yeah, it's in my top 5. Yeah.
So it's quite a high ranking one for Shane. So All That You Can't Leave Behind is the first of the Naughties albums. First of the Naughties albums. For you, why have you got it so high? Why would you rank it up at 5?
But just again, it's like what did I say about Songs of Innocence? That I found Songs of Innocence to be quite a pleasant listen to all the way through, and this is quite similar. That it's more or less a very pleasant listen to all the way through, except that there's just better songs. Like there's maybe 2 songs in the whole album that I'm not crazy about, that I don't like. But there's some songs I really like, like In a Little While, and there's also an element of nostalgia to this, because I was in secondary school at the time when this came out, and got to see them play in Slane while they were touring this album, and so there might be an aspect, an element of nostalgia at play with its placement in my ranking, but it is kind of U2 doing their whole pop rock thing, but there's lots of strong songs here. I'm not crazy about Elevation, but I can in the context of the album, I can enjoy it and jive with it, whatever.
Yeah.
But like Stuck in the Moment, you can't get out of, like, just a lovely pop rock song. Very, I'm just trying to find a decent melody. You did with that song, and it was a decent, and it is a decent melody, and it's a nice catchy song. Walk On, another very catchy song. Like the first half of the album is pretty strong. Like, In a Little While is one of my favorite U2 songs. I love the little guitar, the guitar riff. And then when Bono comes in, really great vocal performance. And then I love when, like, U2 are at their best when, I think for me, they hit the spot for me when they're doing ballads that build and build, and then Bono starts to soar vocally. It's like, not like that, not like that. I'm hoarse. It's not that I can't sing like Bono. I can't. No. Okay. But even some of the weaker songs I found were. I think Wild Honey. I really enjoy it. Wild Honey. I think that's a great little ballad, very catchy song, and great vocals towards the end. Once again, Bono driving the song home with a great vocal performance. Peace on Earth is a little bit pedestrian, but there's some kind of cool stuff with the guitar going on, that I just did some cool guitar work at the chorus. So it's a pity that it's pedestrian for a lot during the verse. When I Look at the World is actually quite a nice, pleasant song to listen to. I can't remember the lyrics, but it's something like, and I try to be like you, and the guitar is going, and it's just nice. It's just pleasant. New York, I don't like. Grace, very slow. Don't like. But The Ground Beneath Her Feet also finishes the album strong, where there's that little kind of towards the end, and it just kind of just like I enjoyed that song as well. And then it's got Beautiful Day, perfectly fine pop rock song, not really my thing, but I can enjoy it once in a while. So overall, it's pretty strong from start to finish, and it's just sometimes when I went back, if I'm listening, when I was doing this thing, I'd be listening to Boy, and I'd go on to October, and then I go on to War. Even though War is a very good album, like it all gets a bit too grating on my ears. It's just all a bit too much. It's just a bit too just hearing a bit too much Edge, where Edge is stripped back. Even though in some ways Edge is the star of the show, but when you hear when because there's so little diversity in their songs and their sound in their first few albums, it ends up Edge, their biggest strength ends up being that what starts to turn them off me. While in an album like this, it's just U2 doing pop rock doing really well. Kind of like, you know, something like online with a very good version of the script or The Calling or something like that.
It's a bit better than that now.
No. Am I out of line there saying that?
Well, I don't know. Maybe.
Right. So yeah, it's that it's just the songwriting is strong. I say put it like that. Songwriting is strong, and I like it. So
yeah,
I pretty much said what I need to say about this one.
Yeah, like I suppose, like one thing I suppose to put it in the context of where it is the first of the noughties albums. They're coming off the back of their 90s foray into being very ironic and over the top, and they're stripping it back a bit. So just guitar, bass, vocals, drums. That's the core, and then whatever else this maybe to help with that. Apparently, when they were writing "Beautiful Day," The Edge came up with whatever sort of sound he had, and it was like the old school War October type sound, the piercing sound, and there was a bit of that in there. And apparently there was a bit of an argument in the band about whether they want to keep that in or whether, like, because they wanted to move away from that. But anyway, he got to say they kept it in. I like Beautiful Day. I think like when I think of bands, like any famous band, they have a signature song, and for U2. For me, it's Where the Streets Have No Name, but I think for a lot of people, it's Beautiful Day, and I think like it's one of the biggest hits that they had. So, and like it is a top song.
Wow.
It won't be one of my favorites now, but I think it's a solid pop song. Like,
Yeah. No, I'd agree. But I'm surprised that a lot of people would be like placing Beautiful Day kind of on par with Where the Streets Have No Name.
I feel it depends on what age you are. I think if our age, maybe think of Beautiful Day. Maybe if you're not, like, maybe if you're just casually listening to U2 as opposed to listening to older albums for a podcast. But so I think it's up there. But for the album as a whole, for me, I think it's definitely two sides. Like the first half of the songs are solid. They're top. Like they're some of the best that they've done. But the second half just isn't, like, from Wild Honey onwards, I'm not keen. I don't like Wild Honey at all. It's one of these songs I had. This is back in the day when I had.
I was crazy. I don't know the words. Actually, I remember the lyrics actually being very cringe in that one. You go ahead, talk about Wild Honey.
Like I had this as a CD I had when I only had about 5 or 6 CDs, and I used to play it through. And when Wild Honey came on, every time I'd be thinking, "Oh, this is horrible!" Like it was a skip straight away. It's not as bad. I listen back to it now. It's not as bad as maybe I used to think, but I don't like it.
I didn't think there'd be too many occasions where I'm defending this U2 song is a great song, and you're saying no, this song is trash.
Well,
you didn't say it's trash, I know, but like you're like where I'm saying where I'm defending a YouTube song.
Yeah, Peace on Earth is apparently about the Oma bomb. So again, talking about Northern Ireland and the Troubles. And that happened late 90s, so this is 2000, so it was a couple of years after that. And like he names some of the people who were affected by it, and it seems a bit cringe. I don't know. It is a bit slow. It's not like the sentiment is good.
Oh, you're cynical. Naming victims of a bombing, and you're saying cringe.
Well, I mean, like, there's a more tasteful way to, I think, to honor their memory than to name them in a song. I don't know. It feels like he's sort of saying, now I'm going to give them a great honor and name them one of my songs. You know, it's you know, you can definitely honor them and it is, I suppose it is a respectful thing to do, but I don't know. It doesn't. There's better ways to do it, I think. I like New York. New York is sort of a rocky song, which sort of appeals to my rock sensibilities. However, it doesn't fully. Like you talk about lyrics, the lyrics in that song are absolute rubbish. Like there's one in New York. There's one song about handbag. If you bring up the lyrics there to New York.
Oh, I will. I get you for I'm looking for rubbish lyrics of another U2 song. We're
anyway, yeah.
We're spoiled for choice. Spoiled for choice. Go on. Okay, this is new. Oh no, that's When I Look at the World. That's just bland.
So New York there, yeah. That's it.
Sense. There we go. New York. Okay, so it's start spreading the news.
He does actually. I think he does do homage to New York by Frank Sinatra. The way he sings
Alright,
it.
so wait, so you want something with
There's
a handbag?
one-
Oh
there's
yeah.
something about-
Hot as a hairdryer in your face, hot as a handbag, and a can of mace.
Yeah, I don't know how he's like. It makes no sense.
Well, let's get some more context. You can't walk around the block without a change of clothing. Hot as a hairdryer in your face, hot as a handbag, and a can of mace. Like these should not be lyrics to a song.
How does it get through all the?
This is a throwaway comment. It's like, oh, do you know what, New York? You should make sure you bring a change of clothing to New York, especially in the summer because it's very hot. Like it's as hot as a hairdryer in your face. It is. That's how hot it is. Alright, so rubbish lyrics. But Wild Honey, actually, there's some good rubbish lyrics from Wild Honey that we also must uncover. I'm sorry if anyone loves it. What was it? So, when we were swinging from the trees, I was a monkey stealing honey from a swarm of bees. Like, if you're swinging from the trees, I was a monkey, like.
I know
that's what monkeys do, I suppose. But stealing honey from a swarm of bees. I could taste you even then, and I would chase you down the wind. You could go there if you please, Wild Honey. Like, there's so many non sequiturs. It doesn't really like what. I was a monkey. I could taste you even then. Oh, you could taste the honey. Okay, he could taste the honey. So, but is it a metaphor for, like, when a woman, like, or something like what the hell? Or are you literally imagining yourself as a monkey swinging from trees to trees? All right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
One thing I don't like about that song is the sort of 12-string guitar. I presume it's a 12-string guitar. That sort of when I hear it coming in, that sort of jangly sound, I just think, oh, it just doesn't do it for me. One other thing, I'm a big fan in a little while. Again, another example of
in a little while
of a ballad that to do quite well. And Kite, I think Kite is very similar to In a Little While. It's just not as good, but it's a very similar type of song. Walk On is one of their top songs. I think they won a Grammy or something for it. Interesting thing about Walk On, it was written about Aung San Suu Kyi, and every time he used to sing it, he dedicated to her, who was was she under house arrest in Burma, and all these sort of humanitarian. I don't know the details about it, but however, I do know she's no longer flavour of the month. It's not really a good thing to be dedicating a song to her, but it's interesting that he was so all in behind it, and now he has to change. I think he dedicates it to Ukraine now, more recently.
It is a kind of a criticism of Bono. That, you know, the way, like, this is one thing I like about Bono. It's like, you know, the way, and U2 in general, but like, I suppose Bono is the face of, like, that he is involved in, and we'll get to the hypocrisy part of it too, but he is involved in charity, and obviously was for many years, and this is maybe it affected their music, but like, you know, he's very involved in going to summits and meetings about poverty reduction and about, you know, helping victims of war and all that kind of thing, and you know, obviously in the early days was really involved in Live Aid and that. And I always found, like, in our country, in Ireland, like, there's people who had almost an unhealthy aversion to Bono being so into that, you know, like there was kind of like sort of the people would be really, you know, making snide remarks about him and just being really. It always reminds me of, like,
it's a bit of begrudgery, I think.
Begrudgery, but not just begrudgery about success, but begrudgery about somebody actually. Like, it's kind of like, oh, look at him, you know, pontificating about us, and you know, he's a hypocrite. You know, going on about the people in Africa, children in Africa. What about our own? You know, there's a lot of that sentiment going on. It kind of reminds me of, do you know that sentiment of, you know, like if you're a vegetarian and you're at some kind of you know, a wedding or something, and you order the vegetarian option, like it's like the person across the road from you who's like, oh yeah, you think you're better than us, do you? You think you're better than us Indians, you know, and I didn't even say to them, like, I'm just ordering it, like, it's my own personal choice. It's not like the person was actually pointing the finger at them, but their reaction straight away is to get.
So it's more about them than it does about.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And it's the same. Like, if you go out and you decide you're not drinking, it's the same sort of question comes in. People start questioning their own choices.
Yeah. But then they project onto
Yeah.
the project the baddie character onto the person who's not.
That's it,
not
yeah.
drinking.
I think with Bono, like there is a bit of that, and I think it's a case of he like on the one hand he's saying about trying to do a bit for charity, on the other hand like there's the whole controversy about them tax dodgers, all that sort of stuff. Like they took their business from being based in Ireland to being based in Amsterdam or whatever sort of situation they did to avoid paying tax in Ireland. People say, oh yeah, you're dodging tax, but yet you're telling us to give money to charity. Now, on one hand,
there's no doubt that there's a kind of a point to it.
But the other hand, the other side of the coin is we don't know what he gives in his personally. Like what he does with his private money, I'm sure he gives a lot. Like he wouldn't like. I find it very hard to believe that he says all these things and he doesn't give a lot of money himself to like he still lives the life of Riley, but
I have heard now that he was involved in some kind of a charity. I can't remember the name of it now. I should have done the research on this, but I just remember at the time where it really was like a lot of the money was going to just creating awareness about these problems, instead of actually going to work on the ground.
Yeah.
But oh my God, it's an awful pity. I didn't really foresee the conversation going this direction. I'm an awful lot for tangents, and I should have done the research on that point, because it is a big part of who Bono is, and it's unlike a lot of the other artists.
Sure, we might come back to it.
We'll come back to it another time. But yeah, but in general, look, I would say the fact that he is so anti-war, and it's almost kind of in a sort of, it feels almost like in a naive way. It's like, just if we all appeal to Jesus, Jesus give us the strength to battle our demons, whatever. Maybe I'm having a too reductive or too cynical an interpretation of how he feels about it, because there is depth to Bono. I'm not saying that he's a complete kind of clown or anything like that, but there is a sort of, if you don't mind me, I promise I'll finish. When it comes to this stuff, I'll probably talk more about this stuff than the music stuff, but I'd still take, if you think about your rich people in society, I'd take a million Bonos over what's
Musk or someone,
or over Elon Musk. Do you know what I mean? Like Bono's like, if we are going to have rich people in society, let them be Bono and not let them be Musk.
Well, I do have a lot of and Bob Geldof as well is in the similar boat. Like I do have a lot of admiration for people like that who actually do get up off, spend some of their time. Like time is more valuable than money, and they spend their time doing these things. So that means a lot, in fairness, and especially when there's somebody of their stature where your time can be put to a lot of use. So. That's fair.
I suppose we're probably missing some of the pieces of the picture to be able to talk about this authoritatively. But it's just I did notice the reaction. This is sort of a very visceral reaction of disgust by a lot of people towards Bono for doing that stuff more than when it's music, and they're using the tax. And there is a certain amount of hypocrisy that they moved their tax affairs to Netherlands to avoid paying higher tax. Whatever. I know there is, but then again, as you made the point, we don't know how he's spending his money. Maybe he is putting a lot of money into charity. And I'm sure he is.
And one thing as well. Now, so when you go to a U2 gig, there is a political moment, and there is a sort of going on about poverty and things like that moment. So you do get a bit of that, and that can grate on people. I can imagine. We're not here to hear, but we're here for a good time. But it doesn't bother me, and it's for a good cause. So fair enough. Yeah. One point I do want to make is, so one other song here is Elevation. Elevation. It's not a great song. It's a good rock, it's a rocky sort of. I know on that tour, they open up the set with it, and it's one point I will make, and I know you were talking about it earlier, was we were talking about before we started recording. U2 and the effects, The Edge is known for using a lot of effects, and that can be sort of he leans too heavily on them. A lot of people would criticize and say he's doing very little. Elevation is a really good example of this. I'm going to get the guitar and see can I actually play the riff and just show you what it sounds like. I hope I get this right. I actually don't know what the riff is. But the opening riff on Elevation, it's something like this, down, now, now, now. But all he's playing is, and it has that sort of that sort of a loop that goes through it. It's like the sort of flanger sound. But he's only playing 2 notes.
Hold on a second. That is all he's doing for that riff. You're joking me.
The opening riff, the opening riff on before it starts getting heavy. That's all he's doing, yeah.
And then what did he do after that?
I think it's like
no,
this.
I don't mind
It's like there's nothing to it. It's just, but he's just playing 2 notes. And there's all that sort of like a flanger type sound. There's all this sort of other thing going through in it.
Yeah, this is the thing about you too, is that like, when people talk about, YouTubing the greatest band ever, like they're just musical geniuses and all that kind of stuff. I don't buy into this kind of, as I said in the last video, that this 3 chords and the truth, the simplicity is best philosophy.
Okay, that's all that you can't leave behind then. So that was
great. Yeah, I like that album. That's what I'm going to say about that. And I'd have it higher as number 8, but you obviously had it lower. So let's go on to the next album. Ugh.
Number 7 is Boy. So we're both ranked at number 7. So this is like the debut album, Boy. Like the first 3 albums are sort of rocky, sharp sort of guitar sound, not quite into the real delay, that sort of real echo effect. That's not coming in as much here. And like I think it works well as a whole. There's some highlights. I think I Will Follow, like that made it too. Now I'm not a big fan of I Will Follow, but I can see it as a strong sort of rock song. Out of Control, I think is a great lively song. Uncut Dove, Into the Heart, Out of Control, I think is a really nice, like Uncut Dove by itself, I'm not a huge fan of it. Like it has a sort of weird sort of riff, but I think it leads well into the Heart. I like Into the Heart a lot. It's a nice sort of mellow song, and then that sort of eases off quietly, and then boom, the drum beat kicks in for Out of Control, or the bass, sort of bass and drums kicks in, and then the riff, and then yeah, it's pretty cool. Out of Control, I think Bono wrote it when he was 18, or it's about when he woke up on his 18th birthday, like turning into an adult sort of thing. After that, Electric Co, like side B, there's some good, like, yeah, I don't know where to start here, but Electric Co is my favourite song. Great song live. I think it's really like, they really like shine. That's the sort of song that really got them places, I think. A Day Without Me, I think it was a single. It's one of these songs that I remember you hear it on Ringing in the Ears, or these sort of nostalgia TV shows.
Yeah, oh, I know it, yeah.
Stories for Boys.
Yeah. Oh my god, I can't. What happened to my voice?
Stories for Boys, apparently, so the Hello Hello, the bit on Vertigo, he goes hello hello. Apparently that was like a callback to this Hello Hello. There's a Hello Hello part in Stories for Boys. Yeah, so like this is the whole thing, they're always going back. So Boy, the general theme is adolescence and growing up, and that's a theme they return to in other albums. I think it works well as a whole. I think there's a nice ebb and flow. There's some rocky songs, there's some quieter songs that work well as a whole, but yeah, that's where I put it here.
Yeah, I did put it up a little bit higher. I do think it's a bit strong. It's very similar, as I said, song like October. I just think the songs are a bit stronger, a little bit more memorable. I Will Follow is got that kind of iconic, catchy riff, So and it's I think Bono, I don't think his vocally he's at his best. There's not much night and shade to he just feels like he's at full blast the whole way.
Yeah.
Like it's a very one-dimensional, one-toned sort of vocal performance, but he goes on to be a much improved as a singer. So like I'm not going to be overly critical of that. As I say, I do like Another Time, Another Place. Actually, that's another song where there's really, that's one of his best vocal performances, and there's really cool drumming by towards the end by Larry Mullen towards the end. Into the Heart is especially after comes after On Cot Dove, is actually really nice. But On Cot Dove, what is it about? Tell me.
Like on Cat Dove Irish for the Black Cat. I think it's about. I think it's like he's talking about. Is he talking about like a woman getting dressed up for the night out or something like that? And he's a bit mystified by it all.
Yeah, so say goodnight. She waits for me to turn out the lights. Really still, she waits to break my will. Yes, and I know the truth about you, she cat. Like, and then in the songs like she cat.
Yeah.
But she delivers with conviction at least. But what is this kind of some kind of seduction kind of thing going on there, or
I don't. Yeah, it's hard to know. There's something.
Was there even any seduction going on? Because there was not an awful lot of seduction going on in my youth by either sex. So I don't know where he's getting that from. But the reason I'm confused by it is because, and in the daylight, a blackbird makes a violent sight, and when she's done, she sleeps beside the one. Whoa, yes, and I know the truth about you. She can. Like, what? What is he talking about?
Yeah, I think there's more.
Makes a violent sight. Like.
Yeah, I know.
That's usually the blackbird is like what that brings in my head. Like if he's trying to go for a metaphor, that brings in my head is that the black cat has actually caught a bird, and that it makes it, and now it's just disgusting. And the blackbird is on the ground, and it's dead, ripped to shreds. And how does that fit with this notion of seduction that was in the first? I just don't make.
I haven't thought about
any
that much.
Sense of this song whatsoever.
Yeah. I haven't thought about that much.
But is one of the themes as well from this album, like the mother comes into it a bit? Does she?
Not that I know of. I know A Day Without Me is like, it's almost like if you died. That's like, it's literal A Day Without Me. I don't even know what Electrico is about.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yes. Look, it's like I've looked into a lot of the lyrics of some of these songs, but I honestly, there's so many U2 songs that there's just some of them where I just listen to the tune and I just, you know what, I've heard enough weather analogies at this stage, weather metaphors at this stage, where I'm not going to try and pick apart what they mean anymore. And so there are some songs here that I don't know, but is I Will Follow, what's that one about? I know, like, we all know the song.
I don't know.
A boy tries hard to be a man, his mother takes him by the hand. If he stops to think, he starts to cry.
It's adolescence again, I presume.
Oh, why?
Yeah.
If he stops to think, he starts to cry.
In tribute to his mother, so even like Wikipedia here, I'm looking up Wikipedia to figure it out. It says he wrote this in tribute to his mother.
Our opinions are from exclusively robbed from Wikipedia, so just so you know.
I know Out of Control is about adolescence, and I know other Sonic Stories for Boys, and Shadows and Tall Trees is like about his neighborhood growing up. One other interesting thing is that throughout this album, I feel like they have an English accent. He puts on an English accent, and I think that's quite a cynical move because they're in Ireland, they're trying to get out of Dublin, they're aiming for the English market. That's where so they have this English accent. Like it's such a fake. So it's obvious to an Irish listener that they're putting on this English accent. And then I feel like when you go onto the Joshua Tree, they're putting on this, or even Achtung Baby, they have these like American things going on that they're aiming for the American market. So that is a little bit. I don't like that. But
like, and going back to that, like, it's like the Irish people are proud, like, at least until we had enough of them. Like, they got a lot of support from Irish people for a long time. So it is funny that he didn't really connect. But I don't think I don't have a problem with somebody singing in a different accent, or I actually personally don't have a problem.
Well, it's part of who you are.
So for example, but the thing is, like, it's kind of like, if you're around people who talk the same way, then you're going to talk the same way, generally speaking.
Yeah.
But people, when it comes to music, I don't sing like, and if I'm singing, I don't sing like Luke Kelly. I don't sing like because I don't listen to them sing. I don't listen to their music, very often. As good as they are, I'm not saying they're not great singers. Like Bono is probably listening to a lot of kind of post-punk from England, and that's when people sing in American accents and you hear children singing, kind of going, like that, all that kind of stuff. It's because they're listening to, I don't know, Ariana Grande or whoever it is, So I don't think that's. I think it's a problem with that necessarily.
Yeah, I don't have a problem if that's what comes naturally, but it feels like he's doing it to break the English market. Maybe that's just my cynicism coming out. I don't know, but yeah, fair point. Fair point. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
So your one last point about this album is just regarding the post-punk kind of thing. A little point for me. Why it's quite low down the ranking for me. It's not even that low. It's number 7. So it's
halfway there.
Yeah, this is not my style, right? And there's songs on other albums such as Atomic Bomb, that I prefer. What's that? The song I liked in Atomic Bomb.
Sometimes you can't make it on your own.
I prefer that song probably to any song on this album. But so I have to take into account that this is not my genre, like the post-punk genre. It's too basic. There's not like there's just guitar, drums, and bass. And the bass isn't particularly, the bass lines are fairly kind
just root notes, like he's not doing anything fancy.
Root notes. Bit of glockenspiel. To be honest with you, I was happy to hear a bit of glockenspiel, just to hear something a little bit different. It's I know Into the Heart is a nice slow song that comes after On Cop Dove, but there isn't an awful lot of diversity in sound. There isn't an awful lot of diversity in tone, and generally speaking, I just think musically, post-punk, it just seems like a really limited genre, not a very creative genre, and I don't rate it that highly.
Yeah. Now, one thing just to wrap it up then, like one song, Twilight, I never... What's that called? I think it's a bit of... Like, I don't mind it. It's fine transition to the next few songs. But one thing I really did notice, going back to the Ages, limited guitar playing, that's the moment where I only noticed it coming back this time, listening a bit more critically. You can hear when he goes into the solo and like they're going for it, and then it's like, all right, over to you, Age, now come on, we need a cracker of a solo here, and he's like he's reaching for it and he's trying to like play with gusto, but you can imagine if somebody else was coming in there, a real like proper guitarist who knows like just the scales, like the basic scales on the guitar. That's the bread and butter for a normal guitarist. That's what they'd be reaching for, and they'd be coming up with a solo based on that. He doesn't have that, and it's like he was sitting at home and he's fiddling around trying to see what comes in, and then he does whatever he gets, and which is fine, but like it just shows for like what he has in the closet in the locker.
Poor old lads. I'm sorry, Dave Evans, if you're listening. We apologise for this massacre of your character and your musicianship.
I'm usually the person who stands up for him, but anyway, yeah. Said.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point. It's like it's kind of like, but it's also you'd have to give him a lot of respect for a guy who doesn't seem like it's amazing that he went for how many years? Like they're going for 40 years now, over 40 years. Yeah. You'd think in that time as a professional musician that he would have went on to be able to, like, has he ever been able to just produce one killer solo that was like, like
there is like, so in one of the live versions of Bullet to Blue Sky, I think it was during the Vertigo tour, he did like a real bluesy solo for it. So if he really wants to, he can. Now this is the last.
No, wait. If he really wants to, he can. I thought you said he's limited.
Well, I mean, he did that time, so obviously he had some sort of blues element there. But I don't know where that came from. Like, obviously, he came up with it some way. But I feel back in this anyway, he just like, my interpretation of what's going on in that song Twilight was this is the best he could come up with, but he didn't have the tools to hand that another guitarist would have. But then obviously he did there was more of a bluesy sound to the live solo in Bullet to Blue Sky. So. Like, but I think it's more of a trial and error type of thing. Like, I don't think he has. It's like if you ask someone to, I know, like, do something technical. Like they can learn the shortcuts to get there and all the different theory, or they can sort of do it like a brute force method and go through all the different ways of doing it and then find the one eventually, like a monkey tapping the keyboard. That's sort of the way he's going about it. That's what I feel like he's doing.
A very flattering image once again. All right, we move on. We'll move on to the next album.
Okay.
Is this the last one before? Or do we have to go two more? Oh my god.
All right, so that's Boy. That was number 7. Number 6 now is Pop, and I quite like Pop. I have it at number 4. Shane has it at number 9. So Pop is the latter end of their 90s extravagant sort of period. Okay, I'll bring up details here on Pop. So Pop, the 90s, we said, like, they went through the fear, like after the 80s when they hit their high with Rattle and Hum and Joshua Tree, they went through the 90s then with the likes of Achtung Baby, really sort of embracing irony. And Pop is like where they peaked when it came to embracing irony. They absorbed all the sort of 90s culture, like all the stuff that was going on at the time, like the live show. They had like all these images of Lara Croft and all these other sort of 90s sort of icons. The music felt like The Prodigy. You could feel like that sort of electronic sort of feel to it. Loads of drum machines, loads of sort of synths.
That's a poverty-stricken man's prodigy, if I ever heard one. Like,
I know, but yeah. So these sort of influences that came in, like, really went over. Like Zoot TV was over the top, but then they just turned it up to 11 with the Pop Mart tour, trying to get all these sort of images of pop culture. So you had like this yellow arch, which sort of emulated arch from McDonald's. They had all these sort of like the lemon on stage. They came out in the encore in the lemon, it was like a silver lemon, I think. I don't know what it was. They had like a cocktail stick with an olive. I don't know what that was meant to signify, but that was on the stage as well. All this sort of completely all out. The album apparently, a lot of what's the word? Synthesizers, that sort of thing going on. They apparently when they were recording it, Larry Mullen had a back problem, so they had a lot of drum machines. Then he came back in, and I think he felt a bit put out that those machines doing the drumming. And then he came in and just did his basic 4/4 beat afterwards. But yeah, for me it's higher because he's probably put out because the drum was doing every bit as good a job. But for me the song.
We just got this Casio keyboard and it's just doing exactly. We just press this button and it's done exactly what you've done for the last 20 years. Larry, it's brilliant. Couldn't believe it. Go on.
It's like Mrs. Doyle, the tea machine. But anyway, he
the songs. I think the songs are solid. Like for me, right through, like Discotheque, a great rocky song, cool riff to it. Very different to what they've done before. If God Would Send His Angels, Staring at the Sun, Last Night on Earth, Gone. All I think they're all top songs. Please Wake Up Dead Man also highlights for me. Miami, Playboy Mansion, they're only all right. They're grand. Mofo is like a real sort of like poor man's Prodigy. I don't mind it. I think it's okay. I like it, but it's definitely divisive. Some song. Apparently, another thing as well about this album was they'd booked the tour before they'd finished the album. They felt rushed, and they didn't. When they went back to the best of the 90s, they re-recorded a lot of the songs. I like the recordings on here. The only one I think that could do it a bit more effort or a bit more work was Wake Up Dead Man. Has this sort of lo-fi sound, which I quite like. I think it's okay, but I think they could have done more with it.
What specifically did they have? What have they highlighted? What problems they had with the recordings? With the production, I mean, like I know that they were rushed and so on, but they.
Well, I think the only way to find that out is to compare the versions on this album to the version of these songs that featured on the best of the 90s. So what's Discotheque made it to the best of? I think Gone made it to the best of. Staring at the Sun. Please, I'm sure. I don't know if Please made it. It should have if it didn't.
Yeah, I remember. I remember Discotheque. I remember Staring at the Sun. I remember Please all being singles. Was If God Will Send His Angels?
It was a single, yeah, but I don't think it got too far. One thing I like about this song, like about this album is at the end. Then it's quite a nice mellow ending to it. Like Please Wake Up Dead Man, If You Wear That Velvet Dress. It's nice. And even Played by Mansion, like I think it's a nice sort of sequence of songs that work very well together, and it's a nice quiet back end where it's like it starts off with really going all out. But yeah, what things did it not like? So Discotheque, for example, was the one thing that changed was these boom chas at the end of Discotheque. Like there's boom cha, Discotheque. They got rid of that. I don't mind it. It's grand. Like I'm happy with it either in or out. Yeah, I don't know. What was your general sense of this album?
Yeah, it kind of feels like one of those albums that got a bit of a. Did it get a bit of a critical pasting at the time?
Yeah, really. Yeah, got pasting. Yeah.
Do you have any memory of what specifically were the critics zoning in on? Like,
Well, I know I wasn't a U2 fan at the time. And I only barely remember some of the songs being on the radio, but yeah, I think it's just they went like the whole vibe. They went all out on the sort of electronica. I don't think they did it quite as well as people liked, but I don't know. I think it works. I like Discotheque. Songs like Last Night on Earth and Gone. Another thing as well, like I think they worked on the arrangements live and they worked a bit better then. Like Gone, for example, was a live staple throughout this tour, throughout the next tour. I used to dedicate it to Michael Hutchence of In Excess. I don't know if it's about Michael Hutchence or he just sort of dedicated it to him afterwards. I don't know. I don't think he died at that stage. But
yeah, I mean, to me that's not one of the best songs. I don't mind this album. I can actually listen to this one and enjoy it. You gotta give them credit. They are really trying. They're trying. As you made that point earlier on about whatever's in the zeitgeist now. Obviously, it was kind of like this, the middle of the Britpop era, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
And they weren't going down the Oasis or Blur route, but maybe, as you say, they were probably, like it's like, for example, Mofo. Those sounds like a bit of a kind of a Prodigy rip off, and like there's a little bit of Underworld and those sort of things. Yeah. I like this, but I still think I'm surprised that it got such a panning, because there are still some strong songs in it. Like Staring at the Sun is kind of it's a pretty an earwormy kind of melody, like chorus that kind of just sticks in your head, very U2-esque. The Please Wake Up Dead Man are decent songs. Like Mofo, actually, I really like it, but I just think that it goes on too long. Once you've heard about a minute and a half of it, but you can see they're trying to do something different. Even with Discotheque, they really are trying to they're not resting on their laurels, and they are definitely trying to do something a little bit different. Having said all that, my takeaway, I wasn't sure, I didn't look into what the criticisms were, but my criticisms of a lot of these songs is that it feels like there is something a bit off with the mix. It's something like Bono's voice is a little bit too much to the fore on the mix, and it feels like the bass in a lot of the songs is quite low on the mix, and I like a bass to be, you can barely hear it in Please or Wake Up Dead Man or in a few of these songs, so that would be a criticism to me. So like if God Will Send His Angels, it might have been a nice song, but it just kind of feels, I don't know, tin or something. It's kind of like, feels like the mix is tin. There's a vocal melody that could have been with stronger arrangement supporting it, could have made a great song, but it just doesn't seem to work for me. And I also have to say there's some of the worst lyrics of U2's career in this album, but I'm gonna have to find them. So you're gonna have to respond to that, or add your own extra views.
Well, two things I would definitely add to it would be so Please is, I remember when Please came out, like I was only 10 when this came out, so Please was not the sort of song I would like at that time. And I remember it being everywhere, on radio, on MTV, the whole thing. And it's about Northern Ireland. This is around the time when things are coming to head with the Good Friday Agreement. So very much, and he was like Bono was there. There's a very famous picture of Bono there holding hands with like when the Good Friday Agreement was being signed and all this. So like he was in the thick of it all, and these arrangements. But like it's a typical U2 song where you have a situation where it's very vague. You don't. If I wasn't told it was about Northern Ireland, I wouldn't really know what it was about. But it is a good song. And Wake Up Dead Man is probably one of my favourites. Again, continues the theme where they finish off the song on a type of a prayer, and it's like a prayer to, like, it's talking to Jesus, but it's more of a despondent type of prayer. There's a real bite to it, and it's like saying, I'm alone in this world and all this sort of stuff. And I like it. I think it's refreshing, because it's not like a normal prayer where you're sort of saying, "Oh God, you're great," and you're trying to look up to him. It's the opposite. It's sort of like things are going terrible. Like, what's going on? That's the sort of, so I like that. It's one of my favorite U2 songs for that reason.
Help me, Jesus, help me! I'm alone in this world, and an effed up world it is too. Tell me the story, the one about eternity and the way it's all going to be. So yeah, I definitely see that he's
a bit more bite to it.
Despondent, and I think it's probably he's expressing a sentiment that I'm sure, no matter how strong your faith is, like, this world will test it at times, and so it looks like he's looking for reassurance there, but he's not too sure. So I actually quite like that song myself. Yeah, when I listened to it, I thought it was a solid closing track. But I want to bring up some of these awful lyrics, if you don't mind.
The Playboy the Playboy Mansion is like, so that's, I would rank that as one of the weaker songs. Miami especially, Playboy Mansion, it will be low enough as well.
Okay, well, for that reason and that reason alone, we're going to go through the whole whole lyrics of the play. If Coke is a mystery, Michael Jackson history, I'll zone in on some of that lyrics. I'm not going to zone in on all of them. Just if beauty is truth and surgery the fountain of youth. Is that some sort of reference to plastic surgery? I don't know. What am I to do? Have I got gifts to get me through the gates of that mansion? If OJ is more than a drink, and a Big Mac bigger than you think, and what's he trying to say there? And perfume is an obsession, and talk shows confession. What have we got to do? Okay, no.
I think he's going for the whole, like, these are all pop culture things of the 90s, and he's tapping into them all. And that's the whole theme of the whole, what they're going for at the time. They're trying to just, I don't know, trying to say that it's all over the top. I don't know. Like, that's sort of what he's.
But like, is he doing that effectively? Like, like, if
Not
OJ
quite,
and a Big Mac is bigger than you think, like, what do you take from that? And if a Big Mac is bigger than you think, is that's going to make you fatter than you think it's going to make you? Like, what? Like, this is being ingrained in your psyche more? This, like, is that what he's trying to say? But anyway, just some non sequiturs here, or not. I probably said that wrong. But I never bought a lotto ticket. I never parked in anyone's space. Hold on a second now. We'll get to it. Chance is a kind of a religion. We're down for playing hard luck. I never did see that movie. I never did read that book. Like, just chance is kind of a religion. All right, that's an assertion. Like, it doesn't say we're down for playing hard luck. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about.
How does it follow? Like,
yeah, no, like, it's difficult. Like, I don't know what he's talking about.
Then there will be no time for sorrow. Then there will be no time for shame. Like, is the Playboy the idea of the Playboy Mansion? It's the culmination, or it's probably the biggest symbol of the malaise of consumer culture, of hedonistic culture. Is it that what the idea behind it is? I don't know, but it just there's a lot of the lyrics don't seem to follow. And there's one more song here. If you wear that velvet dress, like, he loves his weather metaphors. Tonight the moon is playing tricks again. I'm feeling seasick again. The whole world could just dissolve.
You're picking the worst songs in the album. For starters.
the moon is playing tricks again. Like, how is the moon playing tricks? The moon is always makes an appearance in somebody's song. Sometimes the moon is in his bedroom. Sometimes it's out in the sky and it's playing tricks on him. Like, the moon is what is the story with the moon? Like, you know, the moon, he personifies the moon, but in such a vague way. It's just like he's playing tricks now. It's like, now it's covering me in its love. You know, like, what the hell? You know, it's a... Do you really want me to be as blue as you? Yeah, that's good. Yeah. The moon was naked and cold. I was like a 2-year-old who just wanted more. Right? If you wear that velvet dress, hold on a second. I was like a 2-year-old who just wanted more, and then if you wear that velvet dress, like, velvet dresses are the last thing on a 2-year-old's mind. Anyway, it's a private show. No one else is going to know. Well, yeah, obviously that's kind of like, it's a private show. So if it's a private show, no one else is going to know. So you didn't need to make that point. Look, never mind. Just a lot of just nonsense lyrics. To me, it just doesn't. A lot of stuff that like just doesn't follow. Like, just kind of seems silly. You know, if he's trying to say that, you know, I was like a 2-year-old who just wanted more. It's his way of saying that I just need you so much. I can't, like, I can't hold back my inhibitions or my need for you. I can't pretend. I can't. What's the word? Rein it in. It's just such a clumsy metaphor. Like, is it not? Anyway.
Yeah. No, fair point. Yeah.
Fair point. But yeah, look, they tried something, and I don't think it's a failure of an album at all. It's actually one of those albums where I can listen to it. You know, I did listen from back, and I enjoyed it. You know, reasonably well. Some issues with the production, with the mix, some weak songs. I know you were giving out that I was picking the weak songs, like Play by Mansion and If You Wear That Velvet Dress, are two of the weakest songs. But even if they were the strongest songs, if those lyrics were in Staring at the Sun, once again, I don't even think Staring at the Sun's lyrics are great. I'd still be picking them out, you know, just as
the lyrics. Yeah, I don't rate the lyrics too highly on any of the songs. But one thing I will say, I listened to it through. It's one of the songs where most of the songs I actually like, and even the ones that I don't like, even Play by Mansion is pretty okay in Miami. I don't like it all, but I still listen to it. I let it run through, and I think it works okay as a whole. One other point I'd make is that this whole thing about they didn't like it because they had to rush it at the end. Sometimes I think that works in their favour, because their best albums are ones that they did in a rush. This one, Achtung Baby, apparently was rushed at the end. Europa was rushed at the end. It was a whole rush. The whole thing was a rush. The ones where they're sitting back, like Age of Innocence, I think they had a whole album ready to go, and then they scrapped it and went with another one, or they completely overhauled it. So, like, when they have too much time to them to things, I think they never tend to work as well.
You have to give a bit of respect to them for that, because it shows how much they care. Like, they want something to be really good, but also you'd wonder, like, to what extent is their own opinion of their work based on how well it gets received.
Yeah.
You know, like, if everyone was saying, "Oh my God, this is better than Achtung Baby," they'd probably think, "Yeah, it is better than Achtung Baby, isn't it?"
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. Yeah,
like, if people were saying Joshua Tree was crap, it was just like, yeah, we shouldn't have went down that Americana route, should we? You know, like, so
that's exactly. Yeah, no, they're too much looking outwards than looking inwards. But okay, so that's pop. That was number 6. So we're getting into.
This is our last one before we take another break, and then we got 4 more albums at the end. So,
we have
drum roll, please.
2 more to go.
Oh, we have 2 more to go.
So this is number 5.
Oh God, 2 more to go. Are you sure?
Oh, 6.
No, right. No, this is number 5. 100%.
5.
Look what number 1 is. But this is top. We're into top 5 30 here.
Top 5, yeah.
But this is going to be the last one of this video, because look, this
we need a break.
Probably too long. We need a break. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Number 5.
Drum rolls.
Unforgettable Fire. So for me,
finish the drum roll.
You want to do it again?
No. All right. Let's do it again. You didn't hear that?
Unforgettable Fire. So my number 5.
I learned that beat from Larry Mullen. Just so you know. All right. Go on.
my number 5, Shane's number 6. So, and an aggregate number 5. We're in the business end of things here now. So Unforgivable Fire. So this is like this is their 4th album. This is the first of the Eno albums. So they had the first 3 albums, Boy, October War, and then they came in, they said we want to change direction slightly. They got Brian Eno in. Brian Eno, famous musician in Roxy Music, does a lot of atmospheric type stuff, does a lot of production. I think he produced a lot of Boys albums, Boys Berlin albums. So really well regarded, but avant-garde. I think a lot of the U2 management were sort of a little bit skeptical about bringing him in. They thought he would be taking them away from where the money was. But they sort of said, we want to go down this route. Very much, you can tell that, like, okay, you can tell that, you know, the Edge has dialed up the delay. The delay pedal has really been put to use here. Like, it has that. Before, up until this point, it was like the Edge is known for that sort of delay sound in the guitar. So the delay pedal gives you that echo. So like you play it once and it repeats it over and over again. And you key in whatever sort of delay it is. So like it could be half a second or something. But normally what he was doing was like just like for echo up until now, more or less. Whereas from here on in, he starts using it much more liberally, and you can hear it in all these songs like Bad and Pride. All the songs on the album, Pride.
Do you want to go get the guitar and give us an example?
I don't have a delay pedal to actually play it with, but you did show me earlier on, like
what he's playing without.
Yeah, and I was actually stunned by this because.
Yeah, well, okay, right, we'll do a few examples.
Okay,
but like the big example is Bad. So basically, like, what is he? So Bad is like one of their famous, like one of the famous songs, but
and it's crack.
It's
crack
like
song.
He's playing a few notes, and then the delay pedal is coming with the loop, and it's filling in the gaps. So he plays the first note, and then by the time he's playing the second note, we might play the second note, but after he's played the second note, the first note comes back in because the delay is kicked in again, and it feels like he's sort of strumming it, and he's getting all these
It feels
extra
like,
texture.
Yeah, extra texture. It feels like, oh my god, he's doing some really intricate picking here, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like, this is a very skillful guitar playing.
So now, just trying to emulate it now, this might sound terrible, but we'll see how it goes. But like the riff in Bad is something like this. But all he's playing is... Well, I'll do that again. So, and then it's sort of filling in the gaps.
All those extra little notes are just
it's coming in from
the echo. Like, to me...
yeah, but like, so he has that sort of, like, there's pros and cons to that. Like, so for example, I think it comes back to what we were saying before, that I don't think he has that sort of musical brain when it comes to coming up with ideas. It's more a case of, it's a more technical brain, and he plays a few bits and pieces and he fills around with all the different dials and different effects, and then he comes up with these sort of sounds. And I think it works sometimes. Like songs like Bad, you get this sort of atmospheric sort of sound to it, and it sort of fills the room, it fills the stadium. Sort of Homecoming is a great example of it as well. It has that sort of atmospheric sound. So he plays sparsely, but then the echo sort of fills it up and gives you that sort of more body to it as well. So,
and where does Brian Eno come into this kind of that's because, like, he has been given a lot of credit for that new sound from Unforgettable Fire that went on to Joshua Tree and so on. That's when U2 became more atmospheric sounding and
yeah.
And
well, it's hard to know, like, what...
and also can I also kind of push back a little bit, is that when you say that it's not, he's more being technical and he doesn't really have a great sense of music.
That's only my interpretation now.
Yeah, because it seems to me to be the opposite. Like, is that he lacks technical ability, but he actually has good musicality. Is that he recognized that, well, actually, with this echo sound, it sounds great.
When I say technical, I don't mean like guitar proficiency. I mean more like filling with technology and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, but even just having the musical sensibility. This is why it's so popular. This is why they sound like such. Even though you've kind of took the wind out of my sails there. Well, if I was a big U2 fan, I'm not. So my wind, like, I'm exaggerating when I'm saying the wind would be taken out of my sails there.
Yeah.
But it, like, from the point of view of hearing it, it doesn't matter that it's not necessarily him intricately plucking it from to the ear. It's the same thing, and it's a really nice sound. And if he was able to do that, lacking the technical ability to do it, but had the musicality.
It's a different type. So when I think of a musical, I think like, is he playing like a really melodic sort of flowing melody on the guitar? If you listen to somebody like Slash from Guns N' Roses, you'll hear that. Like, all the solos have beautiful melodies, or a lot of them would. You don't get that with The Edge. You get different types of melodies. Like, it sort of fills a gap. And one thing as well, when they say about like the likes of Bad, for example, the sort of sound, it's like a drone. So like when you hear bagpipes or inland pipes, like you have this sort of drone, the sort of constant sound in the background, and then against that you hear the other sort of melodies, and then that creates a sort of a chord. Like then there's two notes, and then that's a chord, and then it sort of fills out the sound a bit more. So he goes more along those lines, and it's different. Like, it is musical, and it's a different type, and it's a different type of skill. So like, there's a lot to it. Like, it's not without skill, but it's a different skill set than, say, somebody like Slash from Guns N' Roses.
No one's denying that, but it's, considering he doesn't have Slash's skill set, whatever, is it not kind of like, I kind of think it's that The Edge is ultimately what makes, because there's nothing unique about what Larry Mullen does, there's nothing unique about what Adam Clayton does. Yes, Bono, from tonally, like, the tone of his voice doesn't do a whole lot for me. It doesn't, but I still think he's a great singer. I think, so, but ultimately, what makes them unique is Edge.
Yeah,
it's not really, and
yeah, this sort of sound that he sort of adopted here from here on in, big time. Well, one thing, come back to your question there, I think it was a good one. What did Brian Eno bring to the table? Like, it's hard to know what, like, you don't know what goes on in the studio, but a few things I read that were interesting was like, so as I said, we said earlier on in the first part, like, he would tell them to strip things back. He'd give them sort of cues to point them in the right direction. He probably had in his own mind what he liked and what he would sort of be interested in, and maybe they would have discussed this. Like, they probably got him in knowing that he does that atmospheric stuff, so they probably were interested in that. So he probably helped guide them in some way towards that. Another thing that he does that's really interesting, and I don't have to use this at all, but he has this, like, he's a really interesting person in general, but one thing he developed, I think it was in the 70s, was for like people who get writer's block, and it's like this game of cards. I can't remember what they're called, but basically you turn over the card and gives you tips about to try and get you out of a tight spot. Like, if you're trying to come up with something creative and you don't know where to go, like, maybe sometimes you take a step back or think about something differently, think laterally, basically. And all these cards would have little ways of thinking laterally. Now, I don't know if they apparently he used them with Coldplay and other bands. I don't know if Doubting he used them with U2, but it just shows that he thinks like that, and maybe he brought these sort of things to them and tried to get them thinking differently about different things, and
influence the creative process in that way.
No, I didn't know about that, so that's definitely an interesting bit of information, both for me and for you, the viewer, and the listener. So thank you very much for that, Niall. Regarding the album itself, I would say U2 fans might think that this is actually quite surprising, that a lot of them would have it maybe up higher, like first, second, third, that we only have it, I have it as my sixth and you have it as your fifth. Can you talk me through your highs and your lows of this album?
My highs are, so the highs here are really high, and they're some of U2's best songs here. So you have Pride, Unforgettable Fire, Bad. They're really top songs. Top U2 songs, top songs in general. And then you have A Sort of Homecoming, which is a great U2 song. Really kicks things off really well. Has that sort of atmospheric sound. For me, some of the the album tracks are not as good as maybe in other albums. So the likes of Wire is just fine. I don't really like it that much. MLK is again a song that sort of ends on a prayer. It's like a prayer to Martin Luther King, although I know we discussed this before, the lyrics here, it's hard to know how relevant they are to Martin Luther King, but yeah, it's again another sort of vague set of Bono lyrics. Elvis Presley in America doesn't really do much for me. I do like the segue from 4th of July into Bad, like, and it's on side 2 of the album. So when you like, if you buy it on vinyl, I really like albums where you take that into account. Like you flip it over, you start into 4th of July, and it's like nice sort of quiet. It's not really a song. It's more of like an album feature. And then it leads into Bad. That's, and Bad is, a real centerpiece of the album, which is great. Yeah. So for me, some of the greatest songs, but then some of just mediocre stuff.
Yeah, I think this is probably one scenario where we're both kind of on the same page, because I agree. I think that that Pride, The Unforgettable Fire and Bad are some of U2's best ever songs. Pride is kind of like a bit about Jesus, and then the first verse seems to be about Jesus, the second verse seems to be about Martin Luther King.
Yeah, well, Martin Luther King is the whole... I'm trying to think. I never thought of it in the context of Jesus, but maybe, the first verse could be interpreted as Jesus.
Well, let's...
one man comes in the name of love, one man comes and goes.
One man come, he to justify, one man to overthrow, in the name of love. One man caught on a barbed wire fence. I don't think he was caught on a barbed wire fence, so let's revisionist history there from Bono. But one man he resist. Yeah, one man washed on an empty beach. One man betrayed with a kiss. Betrayed with a kiss. Are you supposed to be a U2 fan?
Well, I know the lyric, but I never interpreted it as literally as being about Jesus. I thought maybe, true, it is, but okay, fair.
Yeah, betrayed with a there's like that's. You don't need to be Jessica Fletcher to figure out that one. Like, now shots ring out in the Memphis sky. I think So that
don't think Jesus made it to Memphis.
No, he didn't make it. So all of a sudden, it turns into. So it's obviously two heroes of his, and I think it's overall he gets his point across well there. Like, he respects Jesus, he respects Martin Luther King, and it's almost like a bit of a tribute to them, that song. But I don't musically. I think it's catchy, but I think The Unforgettable Fire is one of my favorite ever U2 songs, and Bad is also one of my favorite U2 songs. If I can go to the lyrics, The Unforgettable Fire, I think it's like is the idea of is the name of the album based on some photograph of
it's a photograph of one of the atomic bombs. I think it was Hiroshima, one of those, and I don't know if that leaks into the theme of the album. Like the Unforgettable Fire itself could I never actually, like, these songs, I never really actually thought about the lyrics too much. It could be interpreted in that context. It sounds like some sort of nuclear winter or something to that effect. So that makes sense, I think.
Yeah, it's just again, I always thought the lyrics of it are very vague. Carnival, the wheels fly and the colours spin through alcohol, red wine that punctures the skin, face to face in a dry and waterless place. It's kind of like doesn't seem like great. And if the mountains should crumble or disappear into the sea, not a tear, no, not I. Stay this time. Stay tonight in a lie. There's he has a lot of lines about in a lie in different songs, and I just don't. It's just very hard to, like, I'm sure if you go on a U2 fan page, I don't want to be, what's the word, belittling or anything like that. There'd be loads of theories about ish, and maybe honestly I could be open to it, like that I'm being ignorant and I'm being a bit dismissive, and that there is a lot more depth to these lyrics than is let on. I'm sure Bono, being Bono, I'm sure he doesn't believe that he's just scribbling down any ideas. I'm sure he thinks he is putting a lot of thought into his lyrics, but it doesn't seem to be much to get onto there. Now, Bad is seen as I think lyrically a bit better. where isn't it about some kind of a friend of his?
Yeah, so I think it's one of his friends, the brother of one of his friends. So, you know, Bono used to hang out with all these guys, or he still hang out with all these guys in Dublin. So, like Gavin Friday and all these guys. So one of that gang, I think apparently one of his, I think the story is the brother was a heroin addict. So the song is about heroin addiction, and you know, heroin was a big thing, or it's a problem, but particularly a problem in Dublin in the 80s. So yeah, that's where that came from. But when you know that and you listen to the lyrics in that context, it makes some sense. But again, it's quite vague. You could apply it to your own troubles in life, I think.
Of course, yeah, and there's value to that. I'm not saying that I wouldn't trash that approach completely, but if I could throw this lifeless lifeline to the wind, leave this heart of clay, see you walk away. Into the night and through the rain, into the half-light and through the flame. If I could, through myself, set your spirit free, I'd lead your heart away, see you break away, into the light and into the day. I think that's a really nice lyric. I think that's if I could, through myself, set your spirit free, I'd lead your heart away, see you break away. Like it's trying to, if I could get you, you know, and I can get you. When he says I'm wide awake. I've never really fully understood that. It's such a spine-tingling moment when he does it. Like, it's just Bono's vocals at its very, very best. But what I never understood whether he's trying to say I'm actually realizing what you're going through now. I find it hard to find a connection with what he's saying there in that moment to what he's saying in the rest of the song. Where
yeah, it's hard to know. It's like he's making a connection with the person he's singing with.
Desperation, dislocation, separation, condemnation, revelation, incantation, isolation, desolation. It feels like all these shun words are good descriptions of a lot of the emotions you would be going through, or you know, in that story of becoming addicted and lost to real life. So yeah, it's lyrically very good. And I won't say much more. I know A Sort of Homecoming is also considered as a really popular fan favourite. I think it's a good track. Doesn't blow me away. Wire I don't love. The Unforgettable Fire probably is maybe the biggest sign of Eno's, because I assume a lot of those
synths and everything.
Synths and the violins do. You know, a lot of that stuff is kind of his influence, and maybe that's why it's such a great track. It's one of their best tracks musically. But then there's a lot of stuff here like Promenade. I don't think Fourth of July doesn't do much to me. Indian Summer doesn't do much. Elvis, MLK. So the highs to me are great, but then after that it's all a bit meh to me. It doesn't really do a lot for me. So have you any?
Fair. Just one final thought. So Bad, like, it's a bit of an epic song. It's one of the staples when they're live, and it's one like.
And great drumming by Larry Mullen. I actually really like the drumming on that song.
Oh, really? Yeah, I can't even place it now when I'm thinking about it.
Just when it starts to build up, and you know, it's kind of it just, but drives forward.
But like you were saying there, where he sings the bit like "I'm not sleeping," and then it gets like that's the real sort of climax, and then it comes down and it's quiet, and then he sort of, when they're doing it live, he'd slip in snippets of different songs. Like that's the moment where he goes into the stage in Live Aid and all. Like that's what made them that Live Aid appearance. Like when they're singing that song, he goes into the crowd, starts dancing with a girl. It's actually such an inconsequential thing, but at the time it was a big deal made out of it, and that got them loads of attention, and it really helped them on the trajectory.
And then they went on to make the Joshua Tree, and then it was so.
But so like that's when it used to get the crowd involved, and you know, these little things are what sort of bring them to to that extra level when it comes to performing live. Okay. Are we done on Unforgettable Fire?
We're done on this, and just so if you are a U2 fan listening to this, we don't even know if we'll have any listeners or watchers, but know that the next video is mostly going to be positive stuff. I think, you know, there's been a lot of criticism. Maybe some of it has been unfair, maybe, or would you say that? I don't think so. It's all in good fun. I actually, you know, I respect you too, I like you too, but there is a lot of, you know, things I don't like too. But all we'll say is that if you are a U2 fan, the next video will be mostly praise.
Yeah.
But they won't totally escape criticism either.
Yeah. Okay. Right. top 4 next video. Like and subscribe, write a comment, and see you there.
See you soon.